team. Every commercial that Baker is in, he's standing around in the Progressive commercial. He's standing around the Heisman House. The Hulu has live sports. He's standing around. He's amazing athlete. He's doing sick stuff. He's just taking photographs. Look at this. It's one of the most amazing plays of the NFL season. And I think Baker's team, next time we do a commercial, like, hey, I got a script. We're going to have Baker standing around talking about Pepsi. No. How about this? Baker slides in with a Pepsi, spins around, like, boom, drink Pepsi. Like, oh, yeah, that works. More commercials from Baker. I'm sorry, Jenna, it's the way it is.
Oh, what a picture.
Apology not accepted.
America, one of the greatest moments of my life last night. I'm scrolling Twitter, doing some research for the show, getting ready for the committee meeting. By the way, the tiers come out in 14 minutes. And what do I see? Ooh. A tweet from the greatest poker player of all time, Doyle Brunson. So he and I start discussing things. He writes this: Nick, tape you and Colin Cowherd's show every day. Watch them. Bet a lot of money on your picks. Much better this year than the Blazing Five from Colin. DM me your special picks to me. Doyle, since I know you're going to watch this later in the day, it's early morning in Vegas right now. I got you, buddy. And I'm going to take it a step further. Once we're through COVID, I'm coming out for a poker game. Now, will that cost me a few months' salary? Possibly, but I'm doing it. The greatest poker player ever watches the show and bets money on my picks. By the way, gave you Washington money line, gave you Errol Spence Jr. to the round. A lot of people should be betting money on these picks. But Texas Dolly, much love, much respect, and I'll see you in July, my man. Can't wait. I'm so excited.
Now you know how excited I would be, Nick, if Danny Ainge would ever follow me back. That exact same kind of excitement. All right, I love this so much. Dwayne Wade posted a picture with his lovely daughter, Kavia, the other day, and he was so enamored by the picture. This is it, so enamored by how adorable she is, because she's absolutely stunning, that he forgot to give himself the old look-see before he walked out of the house. The old 1-2, the old up-down. So when he finally did catch a glimpse of himself, he then realized why he'd been getting so many invitations to tennis tournaments lately. Let me show you why. Tell you what's happening here. Serena Williams mistaking Dwayne Wade's head for a tennis ball. Now, before you say, hey, what's so mean, Jenna? He posted this to his Instagram account. I did not. The next thing you're going to say, well, it's Photoshopped. All right, we'll agree to disagree on that one. All I'm going to say is this once again. The internet is undefeated. Game, set, match. Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade's hair is terrible, always.
Well, you can say that.
Awful.
I just said it looks like a tennis ball.
Brandon, tell your guy.
On to the Eagles now. Guys, we have waited and wondered. We wondered and waited for Doug Peterson to make a quarterback decision yesterday. Dougie finally pulling the trigger, going with rookie Jalen Hurts. He had to. What's the expression? If you change nothing, nothing changes. So it'll be Jalen Hurts starting Sunday against the Saints, and a healthy Carson Wentz watching from the sidelines. Here's Doug Peterson on what went into his decision.
I have come to a decision, and I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts this week against New Orleans. I looked at the whole thing and decided that for this week and to look for that spark again, to try to get the team over the hump, to try to get everybody playing better, right? And obviously the quarterback position is included there. So that's really the decision that I came to, moving forward this week.
All right, Brandon, I think a lot of people expected this. It was sort of something they had to do, but what did you make of Doug Peterson's decision to, in fact, go with Jalen Hurts?
It was the right decision, and you can maybe say that it was a week too late. Jalen Hurts came in last week, and he played really well. He gave the team a spark, the spark that Coach talked about. You saw him poise in the pocket, take off when he had to. He was able to make a few big plays in the passing game. He looked good. This is going to be interesting to see how things develop throughout the remaining of this season. But Jalen Hurts is a guy who threw for 52 touchdowns last year at Oklahoma. This dude can play some ball now. I know the wide receivers are probably excited. It's a breath of fresh air. The tight ends, probably even the offensive line. You know, they're struggling, so they got a quarterback that can really take off on another level. So I think this is good, Wilds, when you think about how this is going to change the entire team. When you think about the locker room last week, they had a conversation. They had a meeting where Carson Wentz addressed the whole team, and the defensive guys were like, that was good. That was a step in the right direction for him to stand up and say, you know what, I've been struggling, you know. So I like this for the team, and I also like this for Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I don't buy sparks. I just don't pray to the spark god. So what happens when Jalen doesn't provide a spark? What happens when you run into the New Orleans Saints defense that held Matt Ryan to 19 completions, where Tom Brady had 3 interceptions and 3 points? What happens then? Saints defense has kept rookie quarterbacks. Their record is 6-7. Now, Justin Herbert, however, did have 4 touchdowns, still lost the game. So there can be a little bit of a rookie spark. But if they struggle, I think it's going to be – I don't think we've seen the last of Carson Wentz. We saw Cam get pulled in that 49ers game. It's like, uh-oh, it's Stidham time. There we go, Cam. Belichick's like, nah, he's back. We saw Tua, your guy, well, they're both your guys now, Brandon. Tua was playing great, was getting a lot of sacks. So then, Fitzmagic is back. Like, what's going on here? So if you're just going with a spark, I don't think we've seen the last of Carson Wentz, and especially against the Saints defense. If Jalen is struggling, I think Doug Peterson, who wants to prove that he can still like make it work and like manage, I think we're gonna see a little bit of Carson Wentz. If not on Sunday, then sometime later this year.
Well, look, this is something that you can't straddle the fence on, Wild. You made the decision, and this is the decision that you got to live with for the remaining of this season. Yeah. You can't go back to Carson Wentz. You can't play that. It's too emotional for everybody in this building right now. Billion-dollar industry, multi-million-dollar athletes walking around the locker room. There's pressure on these guys to perform at a high level every single day. Carson Wentz is done. He is broken. Let this kid go in there and develop. And you're probably right. I'm glad that you talked about the New Orleans Saints defense. They are the best defense since week 9. Remember, they were struggling this year. One of the things that we talked about in preseason to highlight, the teams that we like was the New Orleans Saints and how this defense, the last couple years under Dennis Allen, they start slow, and then all of a sudden, the second half of the season, they turn it on and become one of the greatest defenses we've ever seen. That's what it seems like for the last 3 years under Dennis Allen. So look, Nick, I think this is really good, but you can't straddle the fence. He can't go back to Carson Wentz.
Well, and the difference between, with respect to the point Wild's making, the difference between what happened with Cam and Tua, what happened with Cam and Tua is what happened to Carson Wentz during the game last week. You'd made a quarterback switch during a game. That, to me, is very different than leading into a game saying we are starting a new quarterback. That is a page you turn, and you try not to have to turn back. And if you're going to want the best for Jalen, who, let's keep in mind, what's Jalen's history? He has an unbelievable start of his college career, and then Tua Tagovailoa is sitting on the bench and steals his job from him. Now, I don't blame anyone in that situation. And then Jalen has to transfer, and he's great at Oklahoma. Point being, if you want Jalen to have a chance to truly be your franchise quarterback moving forward, it does not help him to have Carson Wentz on this team next year. And I want to just correct some misinformation out there, because I laid out the scenario where Carson could be traded. And anyone and everyone in football Twitter, including Jenna's old friend and colleague Mike Missinelli in Philly, tweets me, hey, Nick, check the salary cap, check your facts. Just spoiler alert, America, I have checked my facts, always. So here's actually how it works. In 2021, here are your options. If he is on the roster, he costs you $35 million against the cap. If you cut him, he costs you $60 million against the cap. If you trade him, it's $34 million against the cap. That seems like a massive figure, but it's a one-time hit. It cleans up your books moving forward, and it's less than the cap hit if he's on your team. In 2022, if he's on your roster, it's $31 million. If you cut him before the 2022 season, it's still $40 million of dead money. And if you trade him before the 2022 season, it's $25 million of dead money. Meaning, if you need to rip the Band-Aid off, you need to rip the Band-Aid off via trade this offseason. The team that trades for him would be assuming that contract 4 years, $98 million, right in line with, you know, the Nick Foles contract. Shorter term was Nick Foles, that the Bears traded for. And Wilds, I want to be clear here. I do not think you're getting any type of return for Carson Wentz. I actually think it's possible you might have to attach a pick yourself in order to get someone to take that contract off your hands. But if you want to move forward, then you've got to move forward. And maybe I'm wrong about compensation. Maybe, hell, Nick Foles got traded for a fourth. Maybe someone will give you a fourth, Brandon. But you can't have Carson Wentz sitting on the bench looking over Jalen Hurts' shoulder with a $35 million cap hit. If you're going to go with Jalen, then you must trade Wentz, and I think he might be tradable this offseason.
Yeah, but what did Doug say when he made this switch, Nick? He said, you know what, I do believe that Carson Wentz can get back to playing at a championship level. So let's look at the other scenario. This could be a win-win for the Philadelphia Eagles. If this kid goes out there, Hurts go out there and plays well, he could potentially be someone that has trade value, right? Because you're right.
That's interesting.
You cannot go into next season with two quarterbacks, whether it's Carson Wentz under the center or Jalen. Because what's going to happen, especially in the city of brotherly love, if one guy throws one pick, they're called